You know, I just ran that through my computer.
And?
I like the readout.
Transmission will begin in 30 seconds.
This is the voice of the Alex 7000 master computer, granting you access to the OSI files.
Welcome, everybody, to the reboot of the OS Files podcast. It's the director of the OS Files here himself, Mr. John S. Drew. Hey, folks, welcome back. Thank you so much for your patience during all this time. I didn't get a chance to do a little sort of preview episode like I planned earlier last week. Some things happened and such, but we're back, and we're going to be doing this show every Friday night here for the summer, repeating the second season, or the first season, of the $6 Million Man, leading to September, where we will also be doing reviews of the second season. The format's pretty much going to be the same, except for just a couple of things. One of the reasons I had such an issue with getting the show on the air was that I really wanted to have every episode have an interview of some kind, and that wasn't practical, and I was killing myself with it. Part of it was also just the whole grind of actually producing a podcast with the bells and whistles. And recently, I restarted another podcast of mine doing this Facebook Live thing with my Chronic Riff podcasting. We're now 18 episodes in, and I love it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this with the show as well. I want to welcome as well this evening here, Mike Murphy's with us, Kevin Nelson's with us, Chris Cooling from the Forgotten TV podcast is with us. Thank you guys so much for being here. You know, as we're talking here this evening, make sure you jump in with your comments as well, and we will place them on the screen. Teddy Ray is here. Massimiliano, I hope I said your name right there. And Ignacio is here. Now, we're going to get this show rolling just like we do with every episode of the OSI podcast, Files podcast, with a look at everything else that was going on when this episode, Population Zero, the one we're going to be talking about tonight, was on.
Accessing OSI Historical Databank.
Some people call me the space cowboy. Yeah. Some call me the gangster of love.
On this day, January 18th, 1974, the biggest news story was that Israel and Egypt had reached an accord in terms of the distribution of their forces along the Suez Canal, easing tensions in the region. Thanks to the diplomatic intervention of U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, both sides agreed to a UN-mandated ceasefire. This was the start of peaceful contact between the two countries for years to come. Meanwhile, in music, the Steve Miller Band was cruising at the top of the charts with The Joker. Now, that would only last for 1 week, but in theaters, folks were getting the bejeebus scared out of them by The Exorcist. This movie premiered at the end of 1973. It quickly shot to number 3 the first week of 74, and then proceeded to top the box office for 12 weeks. Needless to say, we won't be talking much about top box office movies for most of this first season of The $6 Million Man. Now, it makes you wonder if this contributed to the success of the show, as I know I would have stayed home from the movies if this was what was being offered. I know there were other movies at the time, but they mustn't have been as good if The Exorcist was able to hold the top spot for so long during what is usually the quiet time in movie releases. Over on television, NBC was offering the Dom DeLuise comedy Lotsa Luck, and that's Lotsa, Lotsa, not lots of. Ruth Buzzy guest stars as a wealthy widow with her eye on DeLuise's character of Stan. Over on CBS, they were playing the John Wayne, Rock Hudson 1969 theatrical movie, The Undefeated. In this post-Civil War adventure, a Union officer and a rebel colonel team up to take on bandits, Indians, and revolutionaries in Mexico. A number of familiar faces appeared in this movie, including Merlin Olsen, Lee Merriweather, and Jan Michael Vincent. And that's your brief look at January 18th, 1974.
Accessing OSI Mission Briefing.
All right, so we're going to be talking about Population Zero, Episode 1 of the weekly series. And as I do with all my episodes here, I bring in two of my friends, two of my fans, to talk about this episode at length. But of course, we've also got the extra bonus here of having our Facebook fans as well joining in on the conversation. First and foremost, let me introduce someone who has been on the OSI Files before from GeekRadioDaily.com, Mr. Billy Flynn. Welcome, Billy.
Hello there, sir. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun. We haven't done this in a while.
No, we haven't done this in a while, and I'm really excited to have you on talking about this particular episode because beforehand I sent you and our other guest here a little questionnaire, and some of the answers you had were kind of interesting. So I want to touch base with you on some of those as well.
Oh, this is that moment. This is the things you tweeted episode you have. Okay, things you said in the free screen.
Exactly.
I don't remember now. This is going to be fascinating.
And also joining us here for the first time on the podcast, but a longtime fan of the $6 Million Man, going back to episode 1 itself. He's an illustrator, Mr. Jerry Lange. Hey, Jerry, welcome to the OSI Files podcast.
Hey, John. Hey, Billy. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you. Now, you said that you were actually there from the very beginning with the first episode. What memories do you have from watching it?
I remember the run sequence, when he starts after his limbs are unfrozen, he starts running along, just the tension and the buildup. I was real young, but my parents were watching, and I remember I was there watching it. And I just remember the run and just the sequence there where he throws the pole and everything near the end.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's funny because I know myself and Billy, we came into this later in the series, right, Billy?
Yeah, it was a couple of more years before I would really actually be watching it myself. It's possible that this was on when I was, small, but I have no recollections of this from the original run, only in a rerun.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And I was the same way, and I do recall when watching because for me, I know I saw it in syndication, so that when it did start in syndication, I was kind of like brought to a dead stop with, where's the bionics? What the heck is with the heartbeat? I didn't get it, and I didn't appreciate that time as a kid. The whole choices that were made in crafting that first episode.
That's exactly the way that I felt about that when I saw it as a kid. I remember someone saying to me, because I didn't like this episode, I was like, he's not doing anything. And someone in my family, I don't know who, was like, oh, be quiet. It's the very, very first one. You should see how it starts. But yeah, I distinctly remember not liking it as a kid.
Yeah. Now, do you remember how you felt about it? Jerry, obviously you watched it the very next week.
Yeah, I kind of remember some of the things about it. As I said, I was really young. The actual strongest memory that really stuck me actually is from Dr. Wells is Missing. And actually, that's the episode I really remember clearly. But I remember faint sections of this one, and it might have even been in the reruns.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Now, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, like from Dr. Wells is Missing. I just remember when they were testing him out in the middle of the episode there, where he was fighting the karate guy. I just remembered when he was screaming the calls, the way they modulated his voice and slowed it down, and it just echoed and stuff. And then when I think it was Yama when he ripped that pole out of the ground and attacked him. Those are easily the strongest memories I have at first of the show.
Yeah. It's funny because Chris Cooling's pointing out here how just prior to it there was a Brady Bunch episode, and I know that just after it was The Odd Couple, and I thought that was interesting that they didn't bother maybe doing the comedies first, then doing $6 Million Man, and then running their final show for that evening, which was Toma.
Maybe they were concerned people were going to laugh at the show and figured put another comedy on in case they took it that way.
Well, I think, too, actually at the time, in your question I mentioned, I think there was a lot of cop shows around at that time, a lot of serious cop shows, realistic and stuff like that.
Oh, well,
so it needed
yeah.
change.
Yeah, John, the link you posted about the TV guide cover, at the top of it says, "What's the cause of the TV's crime wave?" So, yeah, there were a lot of those going on.
You mean this cover here?
Yep, that's the one.
Now, it's interesting. Adam Thomas is asking, what is the method everyone else has heard to create the bionic sound effect? On the DVDs, they mentioned something about using a metal ruler on a metal table and augmenting it with a flanger or chorus effect. I to be perfectly honest, I don't have any recollection of or any knowledge of how the sound effects were made. I know that they were used after the $6 Million Man in a number of cartoons from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I'm not sure myself on how that effect was created either. I know they did some modulation in that, and the flanger would make sense to add some echo and stuff and really change the tone in that of the effect.
Right.
Right. That they found the most interesting spring ever.
Yeah. So I said I was going to be doing this. I'm getting my hands on these old TV guides here. And of course, it's interesting to note this is the only issue out of the whole run of the first season where they actually had ads for the $6 Million Man. And in particular, I forget what market this is, but they have one here for ABC channels 9 and 11, which is one I posted also up on the Facebook page. But then they've also got this one for channel 11 by itself with the tagline, "A perfect example of the high cost of living." Yeah.
That's pretty clever. I like that.
Yeah. They could always use it now for the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Someone should go back and take that and steal that.
Now, taking a look at this TV guide, I had to think what it was called here. It's interesting because the way they listed here, and I always love the way some of these people write these things. They're based on, information they're given. In fact, on the Facebook page, I also posted the link for the listing they did for the repeat episode where the town of Norris is called Loomis in the TV guide listing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was basically that they were going out to this town in the desert. And I don't think it was near any desert.
No, I think I did see a few trees.
Yeah.
What I found interesting is that if you think about it, I think he said roughly he's 20 miles. He grew up went to high school from Norris, so that would actually tell you that Ojai is 20 miles from Norris.
Is it really?
That would be my guess. If you're thinking about the narrative, he mentions in the beginning, he says about 20 miles. If you think, well, Steve grew up in Ojai, so that tells you that Ojai is only 20 miles from Norris, at least within the storyline.
Right. Actually,
I don't know in real life.
I did look this up because that was something that got me was because the thing is Norris, California does not exist, but there is a Norris Canyon, and it's about 364 miles away from Ojai, about 5 hours ride north. So
it's interesting.
See, now we have to solve this. We have to figure this out.
The thing is, it does, though, say that according to the last census back in 2010, it has a small population of about less than 1,000 people.
23 is less than 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. See, so it works. Now, the listing here for the episode, they said, oh, I had it here. I lost it. Let me just open here. Here we go. First of all, it calls it a return. If you remember, this is the first episode of the weekly series proper. Before that, it was the 3 movies. A superhuman addition to the weekly TV lineup. Steve Austin, Lee Majors, is a top-secret mixture of man and machine who uses his strength and abilities to perform sensitive government missions. In this episode, he is trying to discover what almost killed the population of a small town.
Spoilers.
Well, yeah, that's funny because, it's called Population Zero. It's, you get the impression from the whole thing that they are dead. In fact, actually, again, the repeat listing that refers to the town as Loomis says that the town was annihilated.
Well, it never really recovered from that. Once people find out you can just show up and pass out, folks tend to not want to go there. And the metropolis of Norris, Loomisville.
Now, I briefly just wanted, since they've got it here, I thought I'd also point out a few of the guest stars here. They've got them listed. It's interesting what TV Guide notes for guest cast. There's the obvious ones. Chris Forbes being played by Penny Fuller. And we've also got, hang on. I'm trying to also put up pictures here as I'm doing this here. Our man Bacon, played by...
You have Bacon?
Played by Don Porter. I don't have bacon. I always liked Don Porter as the genial type, so it was nice to see him getting a turn here as a bad guy. That guy. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, wasn't he in Gidget with Sally Field?
Yep.
As her father or something like that?
As her father, yep. Yep, exactly. And he would later go on to be a bad guy in The Bionic Woman as well.
Yep, mirror image, the couple episodes of that and the follow-up.
Yeah. Now, next one we've got, let's see. Oh, all right, now this is one of my favorites. Tate, played by Walter Brooke, who is on the Green Hornet. He's District Attorney Scanlon. Yeah.
You got to know the law to beat the law.
You got to know the law, yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. Tate here, and this is interesting. Tate is one of the soldiers. He's the head of the mission here when Steve arrives.
Yeah, and for a military guy who's in charge of something, he certainly has no problems letting this civilian guy, hey, Steve, you're going to do what? Okay, go ahead. He's not securing anything. He's not looking out for the national interest. Is everyone really deferring to Steve who's not supposed to be there?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, especially when when the doctor comes up and asks what's going on. It's like the soldiers like sharing with him, oh, he's Steve Austin and Oscar Goldman's involved. I'm like, he just let stranger just walk up and share that information. That was kind of interesting.
I literally ran that back. I'm like, wait a minute. He must have said that he's somebody. No, he just really walked up and got classified information.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Oh, man. Next, we've got our good friend here, Joe Taylor, played by Paul Fix. For me, it's Star Trek, the original series pilot. What was it? Not where... Yeah, no. Was it Where No Man... Yeah, it was Where No Man Got Before. He was Bones Before Bones.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I know him as a trivia question more than anything, but yes.
Okay, you got to... What do you mean by that?
Well, he doesn't really come up unless he's like, who was the doctor before Bones? Kind of thing,
Okay, I got you.
You go to a con and someone's going to ask that over the course of a weekend, I promise you.
And then we get into the obscure ones here. First of all, we got Corporal Presby, played by John Ehrlich. And I don't know why he's getting guest cast. Chris says it was The Cage that Paul Fix was in. That's it. Okay. Then who was the doctor in Where No Man Has Gone Before? All right. I don't know, but okay, cool.
We had to look it up for people that aren't doing anything else.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like this guy, Corporal Presby, just shows up at the very beginning. He's the one that admits Steve onto their base.
Hey, you were right.
Yeah. Oh, I was right.
Yep.
Okay.
Where no man had gone before. Good for you.
That's okay.
Good job.
Because,
Write that down on the calendar.
because you know what it is? I remember Paul Fix because what also is so cool about it is the fact that not only is Paul Fix in this, but so is Paul Carr, who was also in Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Hey guys, what are you doing? Come on over. Let's do this.
Yeah, well, I always had my little theory there on cyborgs that $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman were bridge shows between Star Trek and Star Trek: The Next Generation. Boom. You've got two from the original pilot. Well, not the original pilot because that's the Cage, but two from the second pilot, setting things off right off the bat, and then we're going to continue through the first season with people like George Takei and Bill Shatner in this.
Wow, I understand what you're saying, but I got to take some of my geek credit away. I was never a Star Trek fan. I actually watched very little of the original episode. I know, but I know what you're talking about.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, believe it or not. I'm a Star Wars guy.
Actually,
how many other can?
I was, it's funny because as we're doing this tonight, it's May 4th, and I was driving the kids crazy all day today because, of course, they're all doing, May the 4th be with you. So I just respond like this. Giving them the Vulcan salute for those of you listening on the audio.
See, I mean, I do truly love my Star Trek, but, I was a kid when Star Wars hit, so Star Wars is the foundation that the rest of my geek got built on. I got into other stuff because, it's kind of like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Chris just pointed out it was John Hoyt, like I'm saying like he's hurt, Hoyt. John Hoyt was the doctor in the Cage.
Mm.
Yeah.
Gosh, I hope he's going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, he's the doctor. He can help himself. And Paul Carr would go on to play Timberlake, not Justin, in the first Bionic Woman two-parter. And one of my favorite episodes, he plays a fake minister in the episode Just a Matter of Time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that episode. God, I mean, I know it's going to be a while, but I can't wait to get to that one because out of a fifth season of kind of lame episodes, that one stands out as good.
Oh.
I was going to say before anybody went, really? How?
You did kind of leave it open. I didn't necessarily go negative, but yeah, you could get there.
Yeah. So let's get into discussing this episode itself, and something that you both pointed out during our talks with the thing was the very opening itself, just how it stood out to you guys there.
Oh yeah, it's right away so different than any normal memory you have of the $6 Million Man because you normally think Bigfoot and then you remember everything else. But it's like, oh my God, it's the Andromeda strain, population 0. When you see that, and it's like they're being very serious right off the bat.
Right. Exactly. They're being very serious. It's funny though because you say Andromeda strain, and I then hear
No, I definitely think in the Andromeda strain, definitely for that. Definitely.
It's actually the same town that they filmed yeah. Someone check me, make sure I'm right, but I'm pretty sure that is the exact same town that they go to when everyone's dead in it, except for the old man who turns out was on Sterno and the baby.
Or it's the same stock footage that they like to rotate in these 70s shows like the actors. They rotate the Universal stock footage too.
In somewhere, I don't know whose site this was, but I do remember reading something about an Andromeda strain connection. So when Oscar has the photos later and shows him the town, that it's actually stills that they use from the Andromeda strain since it's the same thing anyway. That way the production looked bigger because they had this extra aerial photography.
Sorry about that, guys. My audio went for a second there. The programming I use here kills my microphone whenever I run a movie, but it doesn't kill anybody else's.
Oh, well, good for that.
I know, right?
So if you tune into the regular episode, you get the full thing.
Yeah, there you go. Now, the thing is, it's funny because we talk about this episode here, and I forgot to mention as well, written by Elroy Schwartz, who I've made no bones about. I love this guy. I love all his episodes that he's done. He'll have episodes throughout this first season. He'll have episodes going into the third season where he helped co-write One of Our Running Backs is Missing. But it's not only just a credit to him, it's also a credit, and I'm God, I hope I'm not mangling your name here. The director, Jeannot Szwarc.
That's close enough.
Yeah.
The guy who directed Jaws 2. Close enough.
The guy who directed Jaws 2, but the guy who also, and this is the only episode of 6 Mil he does. He doesn't do any other bionic stuff. But
Really?
I know. You would think, like, considering how great this was. But this guy, first of all, still alive, still working. He's recently did episodes of Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, cool. I love seeing people, people's names, directing stuff that I know like that. Like every now and again on Doctor Who, you'll see directed by Rachel Talalay, and she got her start working like on the Nightmare on Elm Street movies with New Line.
Right. Yeah.
And her first directing gig, they let her direct the last one, The Freddy's Dead. So anytime years later, whenever I see her name and directed, I'm like, yeah, girl, go, yeah. So, good for Jeannot, good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Cooling's pointing out that most of Schwartz's writing is for things like Gilligan's Island, Brady Bunch. Yeah, well, he was related to Sherwood Schwartz. So that kind of makes sense.
Oh, Jaws 2. So maybe there was the connection. Look at there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But still, despite that, I mean, just some fantastic episodes that he's going to be doing over the course of this first season. You'll see here when we get to them, and I can't think of any others off the top of my head at the moment. But he's one of my favorite writers for the series, and between the way he sets it up here and the way, and I'm going to say Jeannot because it's easier than to mangle his last name, that whole opening is just fantastic too. But one of the other things I also do love about this whole thing is we start to see, even at the get-go here, a bit more of the warming of the relationship with Steve and Oscar.
Yeah, you're right. I think in the original novel, they actually really didn't get along, and I think they wanted to soften the characters up after the first 3 TV movies, especially.
Right, exactly. Because in the TV movies, one of the things, even though it went through different producers through this course of the TV movies, they kept that adversarial thing between Steve and whoever it was, whether it was Oscar or, and I'm blanking on the character's name now from the first movie. Who was his boss?
Oliver somebody?
Spencer. Oliver Spencer.
Yeah.
They kept that adversarial, and you couldn't do that on a weekly basis, not certainly back in the 70s with a TV show, so they had to start warming up to each other. And they do it nicely here, although still, here's Steve going, I'll catch you at, Oliver Spencer. I'll catch you at, at the command post here near the town. He wasn't going to wait for Oscar to figure out what to do next.
Yeah, I like that. Wait, yeah, I'll be ready. You can find me here. Boom. It's the classic. It's like, okay, yeah, there you go. There's a little bit of that. And then, in later seasons, Oscar would just sort of roll his eyes and we'd go, oh, Steve.
Well, it's amazing how his relationship is different with Steve than it is when the bionic woman comes around. It's almost going from like an authoritative figure to like a father figure with her, almost like a daughter, how he softens really with her.
Yeah, he does. And what's also funny is that, he sees Steve as, even here at this point, he's still part of the apparatus of the OSI. When it came to Jaime, even right from the beginning, he was like, okay, you did your part. We're good. We'll let you go. It's Jaime who's like, I want to help, but.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe Oscar's just that good of a manipulator. He knew that Steve needed someone to challenge him and that Jaime needed someone to let her do her thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, E. Adam Thomas points out here that it begs back to the first film. Steve was always the kind of a renegade. And yet, despite everything, here's Harv Bennett being really smart with the character of Steve. He took the best aspects of Steve from the 3 movies. The heroic, dedicated, and still at odds with being bionic. Work that into the character of Steve here. But he's a different man from I didn't even go all the way back to the first movie. He's a different man. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they've rebooted him 3 times already. So he's definitely a different man. But I think he is a different man than he was in the very first iteration of where they were going.
Yeah.
Even there's a tiny bit of acceptance, and there's a sort of world weariness already to him. It's like he's not comfortable with this, but knows it has to be. That's not really pushed out there and forced on us. That I think works well, or I imagined it.
No, you didn't imagine it. You didn't imagine it. Mike Weaver does ask here also, isn't this the first appearance of the Dune buggy? And yeah, I mean, Steve's going to have that, and it's going to go, I think, all the way into the third season. We'll see him working with or using his Dune buggy in some capacity.
Oh, Dune buggies. Nothing says you're watching the 70s like Dune buggies.
Yeah, I wonder if he used one, if he had one in real life, because I know the Mercedes he'd drive, his character, every now and then, were actually some of his vehicles, I guess, that he used. So I wonder if he had a Dune buggy, because he seemed like the adventurous type that would have a Dune buggy.
I could see that. I could see him doing that easily.
Did he really use his own vehicles in some of the episodes?
That's what I've heard. Some of the Mercedes would be his own personal vehicle. Probably to save on budget, too, I would guess.
We need a nice car. We don't have the money for it. Guys, I can help you out. Yeah.
Yeah, Doom, as Mike says, Mike Murphy, Dune buggies and quicksand, definitely 70 staples.
Oh no, my Dune buggy got caught in the quicksand. No.
You know, it's funny because this episode does flow. It's got some great momentum going to it. Every little scene works. But there's always that one little catch, that one little thing that as a kid I hated, as an adult I have issues with watching it too, and that's the freezer scene.
Really?
Mm. Wow.
I just think it's way too slow.
Oh, I thought you meant it traumatized you or something. Okay.
Oh, no. I mean, it's got that whole, it's almost like A-Team. Here's Steve building a blowtorch. But I was just like, dude, did you have to wait that long to escape that you let your bionics retard the way they did?
Well, I mean, was that what they were going for, though? Is that the whole time he was in there, he was automatically already starting to become slower? Or was it just really them padding the film?
I don't know. See, that's the thing. Were they, because, I mean, we are talking about a show that had about 51 minutes of airtime. When you think about it, 1970s, we were still, getting almost the whole hour to dedicate it. And then what's funny is that the commercials were so short, they would actually do a lot of promotions for other TV shows at the time.
Well, what I thought was interesting, if you think about it from a story writing perspective, it kind of being slow kind of balances out what comes after, which is, the up-tempo's action. So you kind of appreciate the whole end of it more because it's slower before that. It's kind of like beats of the story. You have highs and lows and the pacing to kind of, without having to slow, you wouldn't really appreciate the next sequence as much. And I think without the next sequence, you don't see the slowness as much of the sequence.
Hmm. Now,
when I was about that.
I'm sorry, say that again?
When I was thinking about that actually today, I was saying, this does take a while. The whole freezer sequence, it's slow. It's almost like MacGyver, makes a blowtorch from the oxygen tank. But then I started to think about what comes after, the pacing, it's slow. Then you appreciate what comes next with this bionics and the running even more. I think it actually builds it up and really helps to really push that narratively and just the feeling of what comes after it.
That's true. Yeah, no, I'll give you that. It's a payoff, but it's such a between that and also I got to admit I didn't like that too much, but I kind of understand it. With Steve showing up with the truck empty, like there's no money, and they're not going to pay you and all this. And I know he was doing it because he was trying to hope to reason with them, but to me it just seemed like, dude, you could have because he told no one except Penny, the doctor. He didn't tell Oscar he was going off with the truck and stuff, right?
He knew she was going to tell everybody, and she did, so it's fine. It's assumed that whoever Steve talks to will tell other people his messages.
I guess. I don't know.
But it was weird, especially when he's like, yeah, there's no money. Yeah, you can go ahead and check. And I'm like, you're not trying to stall them at all? You want to go ahead and get them to the part where they're like, hey, where the hell's my money? I mean, there were... And I kind of got the feeling that he was like, look, you really need to just listen to me or I'm really going to hurt you. And I don't know if he was meaning to be menacing, but I'm like, if you're trying to be menacing, you should have been just a tiny bit more, because they had to know who you are. and you haven't told them yet, like you'll tell everybody as soon as you meet them later.
I don't know. The thing is, and I will say this much though, what makes up for it through this whole process is the music. The music from beginning as he's going down that long stretch of highway to the base camp, to the music as he's making his way through the town, even to the music as he's trying to, make his little tool thing there. And that was the thing. You knew there was padding. Now, you bring up padding, actually. That's a good thing, Billy. You mentioned possibly padding. Because what do they do in the meantime? So you're not just sitting there the whole time watching him build this. We cut to the truck, and the truck drives a little. Then we cut back to him, and he's doing a little more of the building. Then he cut back to the truck, and the truck's moving a little more. I don't know.
Drama, tension, drama, action.
Yeah. But the music during that whole time, all of it just leads up to what you, Billy, you, Jerry, and I think we all agree is the best part of this whole episode.
Yes, I agree. The music, actually, the whole series, I wish they'd put a CD out of all the music, because I would definitely buy 1 or 2 copies of that, definitely, because it's just music just by Oliver Nelson throughout most of the series was just outstanding, and actually really pushed the whole pace of the slow running, the build up, and the sound of that just really heightened the experience of the show.
Yeah. Let's take just a quick look here at a few moments of that scene, since this is what we're considering here our memorable moment. Let's share it with everybody here. Steve has gotten away and he's making his way to the truck.
Drones converged on target. Okay. Here we go.
Now, E. Adam Thomas points out here the one thing, if you notice the directorial touch, as Steve's running and he's gaining his strength, you can see the sweat stains in his chest under his left arm, but the right side is dry. And yeah, it's a nice touch that we see in a lot of these early episodes when they recognize that the bionics can only do so much. If you think about it there, or that there are certain parts of him that is still human and have to be affected by human things. Right?
Yeah, I agree. That's a great touch. Like I said, that shows paying attention. You definitely want to have a strong first episode right out of the gate for the show. So that was definitely paying attention to detail. Really, as a kid, it really heightened the experience.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know that whole thing with him taking the pole out of the ground and stuff and running with it and such? When he tosses it, if you could remember for later on when we get to the Bionic Woman, there's a first season Bionic Woman episode where she does something similar, and they use some of the stock footage from this episode of just the pole itself. The pole returns in the Bionic Woman.
Well, anytime you make a javelin Q-tip of death, you have to use it again.
Well, I wonder what that prop is made out of, because even when he lifts it out of the ground, his arm is like on the back, and I'm thinking, is this like cardboard? And like, is it so light, or they got a wire behind it to help him? Because it looks like it should be heavier than what it is. And I just wonder how he really holds that thing up initially when he pulls it out of the ground.
Right. The way he's I keep expecting that he's going to tip over or something at some point there, because it especially as he's getting ready to toss it, it's more angled towards the ground until he sort of leans back and then lifts it.
It's the runner's trick, classic trick. You hunch over going forward and maintain the speed, cuts down the wind resistance.
Yeah. Although I will say, I do love that. I love that bit as the guy in the truck is just looking and he's screaming in panic. I've even made my meme out of it that I've got on Facebook there. It's Austin. He's coming at us.
Well, I like it because at first you get the Monty Python the Holy Grail thing where the guards are at the gate as John Cleese approaches, and you just keep cutting back, and he's just like looking like, what? What? It's like, how many times do you have to look to see that that's a damned weird thing that you should tell someone else about?
Something else too that, when it comes to this here, then it's like, okay, we're all done. And I get a kick out of the fact that there are many who say you never saw death on the $6 Million Man.
Right here.
Not right here. Not right here. Yeah, exactly. Nobody walked away from that one.
Well, you can see his reaction that he's kind of like relieved that it's over, and he kind of realizes what happened, but he realizes really he had no other choice. It was a choice of a couple men versus, the town and the army people. The life's the choice he made, so he kind of was reserved with that and understood it, I think.
Right.
That's even a callback to the goofy thing where he takes the truck out when he's trying to talk to those guys, calm down, don't do this, because I will hurt you. I will blow up the truck you're in with my giant Q-tip of death.
Now, something we also didn't talk about here that, we mentioned him at the beginning, we talked about the relationship and such, was Oscar. But there's something more to Oscar, too, because I've brought this up before in other discussions of $6 Million Man. A lot of times Oscar is our man who waits. Billy, when you and I talked about, what was it? Doomsday and Counting.
Doomsday and Counting, yeah.
Doomsday and Counting. There's Oscar waiting. Now, we get Oscar waiting in two different situations. There's one at the base itself towards the end, but we also get Oscar waiting at his office. And we see his office, for the first time. Not that spectacular.
Oscar doesn't need a bunch of flash. He's a down-to-it, get business done kind of guy.
Yeah, but, I don't know. It was funny because, by the time we get to, fourth season and such, he's got, that whole command center thing set up.
Okay, fine. They were filming on the set of the Andromeda Strain. They blew the budget. Fine.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I noticed in later episodes, you'll start to see shots of little models of spaceships and the rockets and stuff in there to kind of really push the whole narrative of the astronaut, and what Oscar's in charge of. I think to really start to push that, of how important he is in the OSI.
Right. Yeah. E. Adam Thomas points out that Steve was more remorseful here than in Men, Women, and War, where he nuked an entire city. And I'm guessing that was it had to be, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, at least with nuking, it's pretty much instantaneous. He felt bad for these guys because some of them burned alive. Sorry to get all morose on you like that.
It's a serious explosion just from throwing something to the side of a metal van, a pole.
Lucky enough, he hit the bomb that they had that we didn't know about.
Right. Now, I gotta say, the ending, I did like this, and we don't see it enough in this series, is the sort of a realistic moment when Steve and Paul Fix's character are talking about Vietnam.
Oh yeah. That was a nice little bit of honesty in what is traditionally known as a goofy kid show. Yeah, that was like, oh yeah, cool, thanks for that.
But that's the thing. Was this a kid's show when it first? I guess so. Its lead-in was the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, but then the Odd Couple came out. I think it tried to walk that line where it had to be a kid show serious enough for parents, and then somewhere along they decided to tweak more toward the kids since they were going to buy more toys than the parents would.
Right.
Yeah, I think with the character, like you said, in the original 3 movies, they're pushing the whole spy aspect. Yeah. And I think they wanted the show to be for kids and adults, their parents, to watch together. His character became more like John Wayne in the series, which, the parents knew John Wayne and probably watched the John Wayne films. So I think it kind of brought in both parents and children. You had the action, and then you had some of the drama, and the acting was pretty well done on the show, considering.
Right.
Especially by Lee. Even without saying much, he could show just a little bit of emotion with just his lift of his eye, pretty much.
Well, that was like, it's funny because people laugh at that and stuff. And because you know what it is? And I think they're in the same boat Billy and I are in. Their memories, I mean, I've gone back and watched the show, but their memories, if they haven't, is third, fourth, fifth season, where it's more, as we've called it on Cyborgs, the popcorn type show. It's more the action adventure. Lee didn't have a lot of acting to do. But you could see what kind of an actor Lee was. I mean, later on we're going to have Burning Bright with William Shatner. Lee steps back and lets William Shatner just go full shat all over the place. And he's like the whole time, like desperately struggling to help him. I mean, that's the kind of actor Lee is, though. I mean, the whole thing with Lindsay when Jaime dies in The Bionic Woman, or even with the return of the Bionic Woman and such, he does have some range. He knows his limits, though. That's the beauty of Lee Majors. He's not one of these guys he's like, I can do anything.
As beautiful as that moment was, I absolutely have to have a T-shirt that says "full shat" all over the place.
I agree with that. I don't even, like I said, watch much Star Trek, but I think everything he does is full shat. I mean, when I think about it, I mean, Lee himself and even Lindsay are both, I think, just like natural actors. It's like who they are. They come across very much like Tom Selleck, Magna Guy. It's kind of who they are. They're not really acting. They're just being who they are in the show and the part, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Because Lee Majors definitely had that Dune buggy. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, gentlemen, we're starting to run out of time here. We're almost hitting the wall with the hour, and I wanted to give you an opportunity. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on here when it comes to this episode?
There is something still near the beginning after we get the intro. Because they sold us on the Population Zero, because they set it up as Andromeda Strain, when he finds the one woman alive, which is like finding the old man in the sterno and the baby, you're thinking, oh, okay. And then the other guy starts to move, and then other people start to move. There's just that one moment where, oh my God, what the hell is happening? Is it something weird and supernatural? Oh no, everybody's alive. What's going on? That little twist you just don't see coming at all. And I thought that really was a nice way very early on in the episode to make you go, no, I have no idea what's happening here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's funny because, again, what's nice is they sort of work in some of the footage from the opening. They've still got the doll on the swing, but then it's almost like the town is opened wider and we see more of the town and as there's more bodies lying around.
That doll on the swing, brilliant, Jeannot, brilliant. Keep cutting to that thing. It is just creepy enough. It is just creepy enough like that to be unsettling without having any idea what's going on.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't understand why that bicycle wheel keeps turning though, because that implied to me that somebody was nearby, that somebody was alive and doing this, and it didn't happen, and I was a little disappointed.
What about for you? What about for you, Jerry? Anything else you wanted to know?
I think the running sequence when he gets out of the freezer, I mean, that's very iconic. Just by the way, his bionics, because of the cold, the freezing temperatures is what affects it, not just cold, but the freezing. And when he comes out, he's stumbling, which almost, makes you feel sorry for him as he's stumbling, but you know what's going to come. And as he starts running, you hear the heartbeat. You hear no other sound but the heartbeat and the music, and you can just, the pace is picking up. And, he's like Dayton Ward said, he's got the manliest run Lee Majors does, by all TV. And just the way he builds up like a steam train, building up its motion. And he's coming, what's coming. It's like nothing's going to stop him. And you're just looking forward to seeing what's he going to do now that he's running. It's going to go down, at the end, for sure.
Yeah, that was always the sad part, though, is that, God love him, but Lee's stuntman just never made any effort to mimic Lee's gait. No. Just the way he had his arms pumping. I mean, you could see he didn't just do it once. He probably went through it a few times. He started moving his arms and getting his arms chugging. So I think he worked, and I don't think it was just one take. I think he did it a few times, and he probably ran his tail off too. In that heat and stuff, and with the full khakis on. Right. I loved his khakis.
Makes you wonder what kind of deodorant they had to keep him from sweating on that side.
Right.
Probably changed multiple shirts to change into, I assume.
a little something Rudy worked up in the lab. Well, okay. So let's put some things here in perspective. we're not going to be doing ratings. We don't do that. But what I do ask of my guests is this. When it comes to this episode and then the series overall, if you're trying to introduce this, especially now, we're going to be, I know I will be, trying to bring this up to some people, especially as the $6 billion man goes into production and we're talking about it here and all. If you're trying to introduce this show to a new viewer, would this be one of your first go-tos and say, hey, take a look at this? Billy, I'll let you go first.
See, I thought about this a long time because as much as I'm like, you need to go in order with things, I don't know because of people and what is their association with it. If they just know the later seasons, I think this is going to be far too different. And they're like, well, maybe I just remember this thing wrong and it was always this slow, the same way I thought as a kid because I'm silly. So I don't know that you do start it with this one. I think you come back after a few episodes to go, okay, now come back and see how it started. I think you need to get people more into what's happening and then let them see how it got there.
All right. Jerry, what about you?
I somewhat agree with Billy. I think this would be a tough one to start with. It's got everything but the bionic sounds we come used to. I would actually start with I know you don't like the episode, John, but Day of the Robot I think is almost perfect because if you start with Secret of Bigfoot, you're already starting at like a mountaintop or the bionic woman. Then people think that the whole show is that all the time. Steve going at it with Bigfoot, but I think it would be a good episode. But I think Day of the Robot is almost perfect. I think that's got like everything in it for me.
For you,
that's actually a pretty good call. I mean, it's like you need. It's like everyone tells people that if you want to get people to watch Doctor Who, show them Blink, which is an amazing episode, but it isn't always what Doctor Who is. But you need something like that to get people going, oh my God, what is this universe?
Yeah, I agree. Because the Bigfoot episode is that when everybody knows that, but I think that's like almost like a peak as in the action end. And I think people will be disappointed if you started with that and then went back to some older episodes that don't quite have the same action. So I think, there's a couple different ones in the first, even the second season that are great episodes to start with.
Mike Nelly here is saying, I love the slower, more deliberate pacing of season one. And yeah, there's a lot of moments there where it's like, if it was more modern or even later seasons of $6 Million Man, there's certain things they couldn't get away with. It's funny because I came into this saying, yeah, I would. But thinking about it now and thinking about Billy, you touched on that with Blink there. Blink really doesn't show you what Doctor Who's full potential is or even what the Doctor himself is all about. It's really a Sally, what's her name? Sally Sparrow story. I think the same thing can be said here. I mean, yeah, Steve's in the middle of it all, but he doesn't have a lot to do acting wise. It's really it's a great action piece. I mean, it's a wonderful action piece. It's tight and all. And even with that slow moment there with the cooler, I'm fine with it. As a fan, it's one of my top episodes, but maybe you have something that this is something you wouldn't show right away to the casual viewer.
I don't think you'd appreciate it starting here. I think you'd appreciate it if you had a little more understanding of everybody first.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
Because it's really a phenomenal. That's the thing about it. It's really such a good episode. It really, really is. The pacing all the way through, everything just works so well. But yeah, it paints something that I don't know they really can replicate that much more, or that people are going to be able to jibe in their head with what they think they know.
Right.
Oh.
Now,
well, I wonder if they. Oh, sorry, John. I wonder if they went back and added the sound effects back to this episode. The bionic eye, the bionic fuse, and actually added those. I wonder if it would for the new viewer or people who are somewhat experienced with the show, if it would increase their enjoyment. Because that's really the only thing that's missing. Yeah. I think is the iconic stuff that we're used to that they develop later.
That would definitely help it. It really would. Because it was like. Because even myself, as silly as I am, I still found myself in my head. I'm still making the sounds when he's doing it, and they're not making sounds.
Well, it's funny you say that about putting in the sound effects and stuff. E. Adam Thomas actually has a video. I don't know if it's still up on YouTube. E. Adam, you can tell us whether or not that he went and inserted the bionic sound effects where needed.
Nice. There you go. Good job. Yeah. Glad we got people out there working on these things.
Something else, just to give you a little thing here too. So this was the premiere episode. Anybody want to take a guess what the Nielsen rating was for it?
Oh, well, let's see. It was after the Brady Bunch. so 2.7. 2. Is that even a real thing? I don't even know.
I was going to say, go if you even just gave me like what the ranking was or how many millions of people watched that first episode.
Oh, what was the population back then? Carry the 1. 2.7 million. That must be it. That's got to be it.
2.7 million. You said watch the $6 Million Man.
Why not?
Jerry, you want to try?
What am I thinking? I'm thinking less because I think the first movie was really well done, but I think the second 2 movies might have soured people a little bit. But the fact that they went right to the show, we know that the producers were happy and the people must have been happy. So I'm going to say maybe 1.5.
Okay.
You say 6 million, I swear to God.
No. Hold on to your hats. First of all, $6 Million Man, Population Zero, ranked 10th overall for the week of all the shows on television that week.
Wow.
All right?
Oh, wow.
With 24.2 million people watching.
Oh, my God. What?
You've got to...
I have no idea how ratings work.
You've got to remember, this was back in the 70s when we only had the 3 networks for television.
Yeah.
ABC made such a big deal recently with Roseanne, because Roseanne actually, for her first 2 episodes, she scored 23 million, which is huge. They'd be thrilled with 9 million these days.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I was thinking less. I wasn't putting that back together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you think about it, it actually wasn't playing against All in the Family, which was a show killer back then for a lot of shows. So it could have been the time slot. They didn't have it against that or against Chico and the Man or Starsky and Hutch, which were shows back then that really pulled the ratings.
Yeah. Now, just to, again, keep the perspective going here, number 1 show that week was The Waltons with 32 million people watching.
Good night, John Boy.
The number 5 television show, the only other ABC show on the top 10 that week, Marcus Welby at number 5 with 26.3 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Happy Days, which also premiered that week, 15th place, 23 million.
Wow. Go, Steve. You crushed a bunch of teenagers. Nice. Nice.
Yeah. You know, I mean, this is the kind of stuff I love talking about here, and it gives you some perspective. I know, Jerry, you said that, like, some people were soured, and they weren't that good, those movies, but they were good enough that it encouraged ABC to go to series. And again, you know, we've heard the legends of 6 weeks they had from, you know, the call that they were going with the series to air. You know.
No, I agree. Especially, I think Glenn Larson was involved with the movies, and then they brought Harv Bennett, I think, really in, and he really took the series from there. And the weekly series changed the aspect of the character more to the astronaut, the everyday type man, away from the spy, and really so people could relate to the character. I think more of an astronaut. Back then the space program was in full tilt and stuff like that. So I think, I agree.
Yeah. Now, gentlemen, before we wrap things up here, I'd like to play a little game with you, if you don't mind.
Okay. Oh, good.
All right. And if I screw up on any of this, please, everybody else, make sure you jump in and correct me on this here. We're going to play a game. It's called This or That, like they do on the old You Don't Know Jack game. But in this case, it's this or that or both.
Oh.
Yes.
Mm.
Options.
All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth, start with Billy, then with Jerry. I'm going to name something to you, and I want you to tell me, is it something that either Jaime or Steve did, were involved with, or met? Uh-huh. So you say Jaime, Steve, or did it happen to both?
Jaime, Steve, or both.
Okay.
All right.
So,
all right.
Billy, first you. Which of the two, or both, were ever in the roller derby? I thought you'd appreciate that one.
I'm going to go with Jaime because I have no recollection of Steve ever putting on a helmet.
Okay. Jerry, do you want to give an answer as well? Since
oh, geez, to tell the truth, I don't recall. I don't think Well, there is no neither, right? It's one or the other or both. So one of
he's
them
told us it's one of them.
Yeah, it's got to be one. I'm going to go, just to be different than Billy, I'm going to go with both. Even though I don't think
go with both.
Steve was.
Billy says Jamie, you say both. It was actually just Steve.
It was just Steve.
Yep. It was a 5th season episode. Yep.
Wow. Oh my God. So that would have been, I need to think. I bet I know who guessed it in that, because they had to have had some professional roller derby people there.
To be honest, that I can't remember that far back. Like, I'd have to go look it up and send you the names. Yeah.
Fine, I know, Kevin. You're smarter than us, Kevin. Fine.
All right.
Well, I know Lee in real life has got to be thinking, coming to the producers, come on, you guys don't have me wear roller skates? Come on. He doesn't seem like the roller skating boogie kind of guy. Maybe his Pharaoh was at the time, but I can't see him doing that.
Yeah.
Well, he appreciated the speed that he got to help knock people even harder.
Right. There you go. That's right. Thank you, Mike Nelly. It was Robert Loggia was in that episode.
Robert Loggia.
Yeah, there you go.
Robert.
Okay, going to go with no score yet. Jerry, wrestler.
That was Jamie.
That's right. That was Jamie. Ding, ding. In this corner, Jamie Summers.
Yep. Great episode.
Yep. Okay, that's 1 point for you, Jerry. Billy, dock worker.
Steve definitely did. Well, let's go both.
You're going to go both? It is both.
Yes.
Yes.
Because Jamie was equal rights. Sisters can do it for themselves.
All right. Good. Hey, good. She was. There was the end of the 2nd season. Tall ships or iron ships and tall men, something like that.
Oh
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now that you say that.
Yeah, I think the guest star with her in that episode was I can't think Ray. Can't think of his last name, but he was on Bigfoot and Wild Boy. I think he played Bigfoot. I'm trying to Ray Young. I think he played the guy that she was working with.
That was
Believe.
That was
Same
Bigfoot.
actor.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you can tell he's super tall, and I read online about it, and I'm like, oh wow, that was him.
Yep. All right.
And we're also ready for your Bigfoot and Wild Boy podcast whenever you're ready when you get to that.
Yeah, that's going to happen someday. Yeah. All right. So we got 1 point each. Jerry fought fembots.
They both.
Yeah, that was pretty easy. I know. There's a couple of easy ones. Yeah. All right. 2-1. Billy, lumberjack.
Steve.
That's right. Okay. 2-2. Jerry, framed for treason.
Both were. I think.
I have Jamie. Oh, and
I know. And Run, Jamie, Run. And I'm trying to think if Steve was on the run in any of the episodes. I thought there was an episode where he was on the run from the OSI, but I know Jamie definitely was.
Yeah.
That was the final episode of her series.
Well, no, it wasn't just that. There was the episode where she had given up the secrets for a decoder in the 1st season to a fake general.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Billy.
Steve,
sorry.
He keeps telling people about bionics.
Yeah. Billy, framed for murder.
Oh, wait. Jamie.
Jerry? Actually, I'm gonna since I didn't go to Billy for the last one, I'm just gonna throw this one out too. That was actually Steve.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was Steve Austin Fugitive. Yeah.
I didn't remember being a fugitive for that. Oh, I see. Wording. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
All
Duh.
right, so now Jerry posed as a scientist.
I think I would say Steve on that one.
Billy?
That was both, isn't it?
That was both.
Yeah.
Steve did. I can't remember the episode with Steve. Jamie's episode was Doomsday is Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Where she took the place of Dr. Marguerite. And she put on her French accent.
Didn't Steve get a lab coat?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
And he wore thick glasses.
Oh God, yes, he did. Yes, he did. That's how you know he's smart.
Yeah.
He's got those glasses on.
All right, we're back to tie again, if I'm not mistaken. So Billy, all right, here's your last question. Met Evel Knievel.
Both.
Jerry?
Just Jamie.
That was just Jamie in one of my favorite episodes that people don't understand. I'm sorry, Motorcycle Boogie.
that's a great episode. There's nothing to understand about that. It's evil in that one. Come on, he was huge at the time.
Yeah.
That's why I figured it was law. He was on every show.
All right, Jerry. If you could pull this one off, you win the game. Met Dale Robertson.
I think just Steve on that one.
That is just Steve is correct, and
Yep.
you win.
Good job. So you should have asked me that one, John. Gosh.
I think he's Flemish. I love that. It's from, oh, God, why can't I think of the Little Orphan Airplane?
Yeah, with the nuns and everything, and at the end, he actually has them meet at the nuns, get to meet him at the end.
Yes. Yeah. All right, well, gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this. I had a lot of fun this evening here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Before we go, though, I'm going to give you guys a chance. Billy, what's going on over at Geek Radio Daily?
Well, this is the 10th year of the show that we're currently in now. So, big anniversary time. We also have our YouTube channel, youtube.com/geekradiodaily. You'll find every month we'll do your what's new and coming to and leaving Netflix, but in cartoon form, animation. And we have the occasional GRD Learn Institutes where we teach you stuff. We educate you if we can. And I'll also, sometime in the next couple of days, you should be seeing me guessing on another podcast I saw that years ago with Martin Darkley, where we discussed the classic film Jekyll and Hyde Together Again.
Mm-hmm.
Intentionally. We did it on purpose.
Very cool. I like that podcast.
Yeah, they're a good time. They're good guys. I love when they crack themselves up and just tell personal stories to each other. But they're so energetic and fun that I'm laughing with them and I have no idea what's happening.
So, Jerry, how about you? If people, and Billy, how do people get a hold of Geek Radio Daily?
Well, it's easy enough. We're at geekradiodaily.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and all those fantastic places. Someone tells me we have an Instagram. I'm guessing that's true.
Yeah. And Jerry, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can get a hold of me.
Not
I'm
physically.
Artist illustrator. I have a website, www.geraldlang.com. It's got my portfolio up there for clients. I have a store with prints on it from Star Wars and stuff on there, and my links to my Instagram account where I usually update my artwork on there. And actually, I just finished up a cover for Image Comics for a book called Rose. I did a variant cover for that. I'm actually working on two different solo posters for North Park Theater in Buffalo. So people can catch up to me and email me through my website.
All right, great. And we'll put up links for both those things on the show notes over at the quickly developing OSI Files, the OSIFiles.com website, thanks to my great webmaster, Todd Wiedemann, sorry. Whoa. Sorry, Todd. Todd Wiedemann, who I know, dude. I'm like, suddenly the website's going to go dark on me now. I'm an idiot. Todd Wiedemann, who did such a fantastic job getting this website up and running. It's going to be interactive. It's going to have some great things, including you'll be able to watch the show live if you are not on Facebook, which some people complain about. They're saying, I'd like to be able to watch this instead of just listening to it over the feed. Well, guess what, folks? In the coming weeks, you will be able to, because we'll put an embedded player on there as well. So,
And the extra mile. Yeah, brother.
Yeah,
Hey, John, you know what I forgot to show people? I'm actually drinking out of my $6 Million Man cup here to celebrate my first time being on a podcast. So I had to bring that to show. Oh, he's got the little action figure.
Chris.
Cool.
Chris, I'm going into the town now. Bye, Steve. Under no circumstances. Oh, never mind. Oh, look at you. Hold that up. I was. Yeah, these are the what? Biff Bang Pow, right?
Yes, the Biff Bang Pow. I didn't take it out of the package yet, but yeah, I have this one in the Bigfoot one, which is a really good figure too.
I was so tempted. I don't know. I keep looking at them. Maybe. Nothing can ever beat Kenner.
Oh no, I agree with you. The original, every kid, pretty much just like the Farrah Fawcett poster back then in the 70s. Every kid had the $6 Million Man figure. Yeah, we could look through the back, the hole in the back.
Yeah,
to look through the eye and stuff. Yeah.
Sorry, Billy.
Oh, yeah, everyone had that. We all. It was so fantastic. Yeah. Look, it actually works. You can actually see telescopic.
Well, I didn't see it until I didn't get mine until I was in my 30s.
Really?
Yeah, my wife.
Wow, you missed out.
Yeah. My sisters had the Bionic Woman, but I did not have a $6 million man figure.
Well, it's kind of funny. You wonder if him and Farrell would argue. Well, he's like, well, I got the number one action figure. Well, I got the number one poster. My poster sold like 25 million. How many action figures have you sold? I could see that conversation where that went at the dinner table.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this up here. Let's talk about really quickly next week. Steve and Oscar trapped on an island when their plane goes down during a storm. It wouldn't be so bad, except that there's an assassin gunning for Oscar. Can Steve figure out whom among the survivors it is in Survival of the Fittest? I'm going to put you down for a moment, Steve, here, as I say goodnight to my guests. Billy Flynn, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, sir.
And Mr. Jerry Lange, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. It was a blast.
And to the rest of you here on Facebook, so many of you commenting here. It was fantastic. Thank you for keeping the conversation going. Until next time, everyone, take care.
You have been listening to the OSI Files, hosted and produced by John S. Drew. If you would like to comment on anything you have heard on this podcast, please take a moment by writing us at osifiles6@gmail.com, commenting on our Facebook page, Twitter at OSI_files, or visit us on the web at theosifiles.com. The OSI Files is a Lucky Shot production. I am the Alex 7000 Master Computer, and I am programmed to thank you.
While you were with the Russians on space, I was negotiating with them on something else. I can't tell you what. But there are a lot of countries that would like to stop those negotiations. And they can stop them by killing me.
This is Lee Majors, next on the $6 Million Man.
Get those heads down and keep them there.
The plane?
Gone. But the rest of us seem to be in pretty good shape.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Oscar. You're not paranoid. Somebody is trying to kill you, and they're on this island.
Yeah, well, our pilot must have radioed for help. But what if they get here first?
One way or the other, Oscar Goldman is dead. Come on, let's get some firewood. That's what we came out here for.
Okay.